So we will move on to the second part of Enjoy the Hostilities today, which is water, the study of martial arts. Water, the study of martial arts, number like 10 maybe. Yeah. Could be way wrong. You'll see the number on the YouTube video. Mark will pull it up. But could be 8, could be 10, could be 11. I don't know. But Water, the Study of Martial Arts has been the deep dive section where we look at one topic as it relates, usually a macro idea, big picture, philosophical or macro or structural aspect of martial arts. And then we dive into it. And what I want to talk about today is structure and rules and laws as it pertains to martial arts, combat sports, etc. And we have examined this before, but I've learned a lot more about it, and I've thought a lot more about it, so I wanted to go into it again. Not only that, there was a lot of talk because just recently, Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov fought, and McGregor broke a number of the rules, and people didn't like that. The right guy won. Khabib won, as he should have. And also Herb Dean, the ref, some people, liked it, didn't like it, understood it, didn't understand it. And Herb came out, and actually there's a video. I don't know if he put it on his own. I saw it linked somewhere else. But there's Herb talking about his job, what he was doing, and then the particulars of that. So there's a lot. It's relevant to today and right now. But let's start generally, okay? And we're going to start in a. Before I was going to say we're going to start in a combat sports context, but let's start even before that. Martial arts themselves. The particular styles of martial arts have some rules. In wrestling, you don't punch. Right, Mark? Wrestling, you don't punch in wrestling. That's right. In Taekwondo, you don't punch to the head, but you do punch to the body and you do kick to the head. In Jiu-Jitsu, you don't punch. When you're a white belt in Jiu-Jitsu, you don't attack leg locks in many schools. A lot of them now are allowing it from the beginning because it is such a big part of the modern Jiu-Jitsu game that you should be familiar with it early. In boxing, you don't kick, you don't knee, you don't elbow. These rules. These are the structures of what makes these martial arts. Now, if you ask many of the first and second generations and even the third generations of the Gracie family, many of them and many other practitioners of jiu-jitsu, particularly the great practitioners from Brazilian jiu-jitsu from Brazil, they will tell you that everything is jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, if in real jiu-jitsu, you do punch and you do kick and you do headbutt and you do bite if it's for your life and you do all these things. But in sport jiu-jitsu, you don't. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? All of these different contexts create rules and structures and guidelines. And in many of these cases, that's where some of the weaknesses are, because it is it's just a belief system, Now, again, I'm not yet talking about combat sports. I'm just talking about the structures of these things. We wrestle. When we wrestle, we do not punch or kick. You can see the limitations of that, right? But that is also what makes specialists. Why are wrestlers so good at grabbing people and throwing them down and controlling them and physically dominating them? Because they didn't waste their time, and it's not a waste, but in this context it is, figuring out how to punch and kick and eye gouge and all these other things. They specialized all of their training on this. And that's what it is to be a specialist. But in real life, somebody's like, I want to steal your wife's purse. You can't say, well, I'm a wrestler, don't punch me. Or, real life is different. So all of these martial arts have these doctrines of things you do and don't do and must do and can't do and shouldn't do and used to do but don't do anymore. And all of these different types of competition and training do as well. But then when you get to a combat sport, there is a guideline, a rule book. Now, some of us are real sticklers for rules and structure and what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for?
Order.
Yeah, order. And, police enforce, they like to enforce, I guess, rules, laws. A lot of us, laws matter. What we all said, you don't stay after 5. You don't stay after 5. Hey, this store's supposed to close at 9. Why the fuck isn't it open? It's 9:10. There's certain of us, it's a part of our personality that these things are just so. They're just so. And they must be so. And order, Mark used the word order. Order's good because to not have that is to not have order. And we need order, right? So for a lot of us, that's just in us. And then others of us are like, these things are not really real. Or they're to be, winning is so important that cheating or manipulating them or finding a way around them is something to explore. Now, there's a classic Star Trek episode. I think it's like one of the early ones of the movies, and Captain Kirk, and I'm not a Trekkie, so forgive me if I'm messing this up somehow. Captain Kirk has this test that they have to do at the end, and no matter what, when you do this test, it's a computer-run simulation, everybody dies. Mark, are you familiar with this? No? Mark doesn't watch that shit.
When I was a kid, I don't remember.
So everybody dies, and your job is to go in, and they say you can't win, and you have to go in and face this program, and you can't win. And the test is to show, how you handle certain failure. And Captain Kirk goes in, and he reprograms the computer so he can win. And to him, that is 100% the way to solve this problem. And he gets in trouble because that's cheating. And I ask you to think about that for a second. Somebody created a structure in which you couldn't do what it took to win, and then you found a way around it to win. Is that cheating? And the answer is, it depends on your perspective of it. And I really mean that. You might argue with me, and you might say, no, of course it is, that's this. But that's your perspective. And it might be mine most of the time as well. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying for somebody else, they're like, no, the way... this has to be, especially in this simulation where everybody was going to die. The simulation was everybody was going to die and you had to save them. Well, okay, I'll go in and I'll restructure the world around me. Like, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to find an answer, and you find one. I know that's an extreme analogy, but that's sort of what rules are if your perspective is that in combat sports. Now, let me use another one as best I can, and I hope that this is of some value. And I think we talked about this last week, but I don't know if we did it on the YouTube channel or we did it pre-YouTube channel. But Holly Holm, at the end of 2 different rounds when she fought Germaine Durand to me, she got punched in the face well after the bell. Baff, baff. And don't fuck with Holly Holm. It's one of my fighters right there. And, yeah, I'm a big fan. But even as a big fan, even in that context, when we talked about it on Monday, I'm like, that's Holly's fault. People are mad at me, and it's like, I'm not hating on Holly Holm. She was like one of my very favorite fighters. Left-handed, super talented, southpaw. You just cheer for... Personality doesn't always affect me in my, favorite artists, but her personality, you cheer for her somehow. She's obviously beautiful. Like, yeah, it's one of my favorites. And I was still like, that's her fault. And people are like, how the fuck can you say that? That woman obviously cheated. It's not her fault the woman cheated. It's her fault she let up and didn't protect herself. She blocked or evaded, 19 out of 20 of those punches. Not those ones. Why? Because she heard the beep, she heard the buzz, and then let herself stop. And that's her fault. That's her flaw. And the analogy we used last week, I think pre-YouTube shoot, was... I've only had a driver's license for 10 months because I was an Uber and taxi guy, and I live in downtown Toronto. And when I travel, it's a cab from the airport to wherever we're going. So I've only been driving for 10 months. And I took a training course. And that guy drilled it home. He's like, never, ever assume you're driving up, he's got a red light. Never assume that he's just going to follow the rule. Never assume he's just going to do the right thing. Never assume and just drive along. And if he smashed into me and killed my family or badly injured me or, like hurt my wife or wrecked our car, I wouldn't just be like, yeah, but that guy fucked up. Like that guy. My job is to assume that he may do the wrong thing and be prepared for it. That's my job just as a driver. That's my job just in life. That was Holly Holm's job in that fight. There's no question about it. It's every fighter's job in that fight. Every fighter's, particularly in that example. Floyd Mayweather knocked somebody out. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
They're like, something happens, then they say, okay, fight. And he hugs, and then he pops his hand down, and Floyd's like, they said start like 6 seconds, and he fucking floored this guy. I forget who it was. It was like one of his last dozen fights, and it was one of his big fights, and I should remember, but if you know me, you know names is an issue sometimes for me. Protect yourself at all times. Assume that car might run the red light. Don't just assume he's going to do the right thing and then get hit by a car and then later be able to say, he ran a red light. I should be able to assume that and be prepared for it. Holly should have done the same thing. Doesn't mean that Jermaine didn't cheat. She did. Doesn't mean we shouldn't judge it. We should. But does Jermaine ran to me? The history will say she was a UFC champion. Correct? Did she win that? Was that for a title? Yeah. Jermaine Durandamy? Yeah.
Yeah.
One featherweight, UFC featherweight champion of the world for the rest of her life. That is on her wall. Now, I think she's going to win with whether she lands those or not. But regardless, if you can go through the world and not care. So what was the only repercussions for Jermaine Durandamy and Conor McGregor? We all got mad. We were like we're outraged. If you don't care about that, then there's literally no repercussions. A lot of people don't care what we think. And you shouldn't care what other people think necessarily. I'm not saying don't cheat. In fact, the longer I go through life, the more I want to do the right thing. The longer I learn, the more I see people and the more I see the world around me, the more I want to do the right thing. And I want to live in a world where we have honor and respect and integrity and all those things. And I want to be in that world. But I'm certainly not going to assume that other people see what I see. And if the only negative repercussion for breaking this, my man-made world where I say these rules matter, honor, integrity, respect, or some rule book that they're not even really using anymore. If the only downside is we go, what a cheater, if he or she doesn't care about that, well, then there's no downside at all. Then it's my job to work in a world where I might assume you might gouge my eyes. That's my job. It really is. It really is. Now, I'm not saying when somebody cheats and gets away with it, that's your fault. It's not your fault. But you certainly got to be ready for it. You certainly got to guess that especially if you know that they're one of those do whatever it takes to win people. You got to assume that. Now, the specifics before anybody, I was going to say before Khabib fans. I'm a Khabib fan. So, but before we get into craziness on this one, here's some of the specifics on this. And Herb did a better job of explaining it than I'm going to do, but I'm going to interpret it the way I see it as well. In addition, Herb did not say, this is how I see my role or how I see the job should be done. He's saying this is how the job is done. This is how it's done. This is how the rules are. This is how we all see it. This is what should be done. And in this case, you got to think about this. We Khabib fans have to think about this. We got mad because Conor grabbed the shorts, grabbed the fence, grabbed the glove, stuck his toes in the fence, and kneed us in the head. We're mad. What's he trying to do here? He's cheating, one. Okay? Those cheats didn't help him. So fuck him. But you know how they could help him? If we start freaking out or if Herb does something that undermines us. And that's the most important part. And Khabib did start getting distracted. Dana, he's doing this Herb, now it didn't matter. The right guy still won. The winner won. Khabib won. Khabib won, 3 rounds and the finish and did great in the other round as well and dropped the guy and dominated him on top whenever he was there and stayed focused. But the risk is not Conor grabbing my shorts. Fuck him. let him grab my shorts. I'm still beating him up. The risk is Herb separates something, and then when he puts it back together, now Conor used Herb to get a small advantage, make a little error, put his knee in a different place, get a breather. Conor's trying to use Herb. Grab the shorts to manipulate Herb into helping me. That's what he's trying to do. Or grab the shorts to get our guy Khabib mad, which makes him pay less attention, which helps. It's not the short grab that we should be mad about. The short grab is there to manipulate us or Herb. Herb was not manipulated. He was like, short grab doesn't make a difference. Let it fucking go. I'm Herb now for a moment. My job is to make sure that Khabib doesn't lose his dominance. He's dominating him. He's beating him up. He's got control. Guy grabs the short. Don't pay attention to it. It's nonsense. And Khabib's job is to keep doing it and not be distracted by that. Is he cheating? Yes. But what's worse than cheating is us being affected by it. So that's the thing. It's like we react so easily to so many things. And damn good thing Khabib isn't all 90% of his fans on Twitter. Because them like having complete triggered meltdowns about it, if Khabib did that, Conor might have found some lucky situation or gained some advantage and the whole thing could change. Fortunately, for us who are fans of Khabib, Khabib isn't fucking overly triggered, emotional, crazy like half of the fans. He got a little uptight, but it didn't undermine him. Herb also, fortunately, isn't some overreactor. It's like, this guy's trying to trick one of us with a stupid trunk grab. Just ignore it. Now, what does that mean for the future? Well, we're going to have to treat everyone differently. Because if that trunk grab in some way affected Khabib, or if those toes in the fence somehow affected Khabib, well, we'd have to approach it different. But those were not there. They were at no risk of gaining him an advantage unless Herb or Khabib overreacted to them. What's the lesson here for us? Sometimes, we don't have to react to everything. We don't have to react to everything. Sometimes our reaction is the worst part of it. Sometimes and in the case of being a fan of Khabib or Conor, your reaction's the worst part of this whole experience for all y'all. So much anger and emotion. I've seen it. Now at the time we're doing this, it is, what's the date? The 16th, I believe. Yep. It is the 16th. When did that fight take place? The 5th?
I believe so.
Or the 6th?
Let me check.
We're into 10 days. It's still, I'm somehow involved.
That was on the 6th.
On the 6th, so 10 days ago. I'm still in people's loops where they're still 10 days later arguing. Now they've mutated out too. Who's the best featherweight of all time? Aldo, Conor, or Max? And the same people who've been arguing for 10 days are now arguing about that. And they don't have anything extra to add other than, yeah, but this guy beat this guy. Yeah, but this guy beat this guy. Yeah, but he beat way more guys. Like, what the fuck are we all doing here? Reacting to everything. Khabib reacted a little, but not enough that it affected him negatively. Good for him. We all learned a lesson there. Herb reacted a tiny bit, but not in a way that it undermined the right guy winning and gave an advantage to the cheater. That's the most important part. The most important part isn't some rule book that's ancient and half of them we ignore anyways. Everybody gets a free eye poke. Everybody. You get a free eye poke. Doesn't say that in the rules. Doesn't go, first eye poke's free. It's like eye pokes are illegal. But we all get one. So we can't fucking obsess about this. This is all man-made shit. All of it. Like, nowhere does it say first eye poke's free. Or first groin kick's free, for that matter. We all get a free groin. We usually get 2 free groin kicks. Not in the rules, but we know that that's true. So this thing is nonsense. If you've ever signed a contract, all of these things are starting to shatter. Contracts themselves, most of them are garbage now, right?
Even fighting at an agreed weight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People miss weight.
Yeah, people miss weight. People missed weight. Ala Quinta missed weight, and it was like, well, if you win, you'll still be the champ. And the commission's like, no, you won't. And you're like, what? Yes, we will. Yes, he will. You know, it's like a lot of this shit has become bullshit. Is that good? Maybe not. Probably not. But you must deal with reality. You must deal with reality. The first eye poke's free. That's just a fact. Gunnar Nelson got fucked right up.
Matt Mitrione.
Yeah, Matt Mitrione. Gunnar Nelson, they've been protesting it, and they're like, look, he couldn't see. Well, I mean, we got video evidence, and it's like, and this thing goes right into there, like right up to there, and is that right? And like, what shocks me, and doesn't shock me, I don't want to judge, but like, I will be surprised how many people will say, but you're endorsing it. I'm not endorsing it, it's just fact. I'm accepting it. Now, you got two options. First eye poke's free. That's just the way they've done it. That's how it's happened. We got two choices. We got three choices. Two of them are good, and one of them is going to harm us. First one, accept it and work within that truth. Okay? Many ways to do that. One is like, fuck it. And I'm not saying John Jones pokes everyone in the eye for free, but it's certainly possible. There's a guy going, well, if you got a free eye poke, why the fuck wouldn't I use it? Again, what's the negative? A lot of people, when I put up a John Jones video on Instagram today, there's a few, I put up him tech sparring with Holly Holm. It's like, he's going to eye poke her. If John doesn't give a shit about that, just think of how many fights you could win poking somebody in the eye. We'd give a shit. I'd be embarrassed. I would hate that. I care about how the world sees me, for good or bad. I care. And so do most of us. But if John doesn't, I'm not saying he doesn't. And I'm not saying he does it on purpose. He's got really long fingers. Who knows? But if he does, he's working within the truth. That's the truth. These are truths. First eye poke's free. So we can do one of three things. Accept it. Whatever you do with that is up to you. If you poke people in the eye, well, that's not what I'd do, but you can do it. Or two, you be ready for it. Eye poke could happen. Fortunately, this is a B. This is an off part. It's not one of these three things I'm going to say. Fortunately, if I get eye poked and the ref doesn't see it, if I do my job good enough, he might call it. That's not in the rule book either. Rule book says ref must see it. Not see you go like this. Ref must see it. Well, they're changing. They're like slacking off on that because they're like, well, I didn't see it, but clearly this guy's got eye poked. Okay. So you learn the reality of it. Get eye poked, okay? Try to get the ref's attention. Work with one eye. Deal with the reality. He's coming at me. Gunner's case, which is unfair, but we live in an unfair world. So second choice, fight this. Make a stand, right? People make a stand for all kinds of stupid shit every day. Stupid shit. I just saw, have you seen Joe's...
the vegan cat.
Vegan cat? Vegan cat, right? Just with Joe's fucking... If you haven't seen Joe's special on Netflix, man, it's great. Vegan cat, right? I didn't make it up. Joe did. Actually, he didn't make it up either. He just found it. People take a stand for all kinds of stupid shit, but if it's something that's important to you, you can dedicate yourself to trying to change it. Option one, accept it. Option two, work hard to change it. And accept you may or may not change it. Option three, fucking bitch about it nonstop. This one's useless. Damaging to you. Damaging to your life. Distracting. Emotionally draining. That's not fair. Gunnar Nelson got fucked. He did. Got fucked. I'm a Conor Nelson fan. I'm a huge fan. I love that guy. I've studied his work, and it's just such I'm a mark for that man's martial arts skills, and he's a cool guy. His dad's cool too. Met his dad a couple times. Very, very kind. He's very kind.
His dad's very smart.
What's that?
His dad's very
smart. Yeah, they're both very smart. I was choked, but what am I gonna bitch about it for months? That's damaging myself. Same thing. You're gonna go on Twitter and freak out because Conor McGregor grabbed shorts. Conor got the shit kicking that he deserved. And hey, you're Conor fans. I appreciate this man's work and art, and I always will. And when I say he deserved, I mean you're cheating and you got beat up, and there it is. But you can't just sit there screaming about it. You must accept it or change it. Accept or change. Either accept or work to change. Either one. Complain is not a thing. Complain is not change. Complain is not action. Complain is not take action. Complain is not try to find a way to influence. Complain is just what losers do. And I rarely say that. And I don't say it to hurt anybody. I say it to make you stop and go, wait a second. I'm not that. I am not that. Robin Black said that's what, and other people said that. I'm not that thing. Is that really what failures or losers or people who don't succeed or don't win, is that really what they do? Because I'm going to stop doing that. I don't mean to hurt anybody. I really don't. I never would want to do that. But you can't sit around complaining. It is one of the most damaging things you can do. It is inaction, disguised as action. You think it's action. You think you're doing something. You think Donald Trump this or the fucking left that. If you're just sitting around complaining, you are fucking wrecking your life. You are wasting your life. Nobody's listening. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. If one person watches or listens to this and says, you're right, wait a second, why do I waste 20 minutes or 14 tweets or the water cooler with my friends? Why am I just bitching? It's not something. It's not. It's self-sabotage. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. But rules are an agreement that we all make, and every agreement has to be made, and you can't keep your fingers behind your back, and you can't I was just kidding, and don't do that. Be an honorable person. But you better know that when you make that agreement and it's life or death, they might do that. And you might in a certain circumstances. I'll tell you, the best fighters in the world, if they feel they're going down and they're almost done, they'll grab that fence and they're not making a choice. Should I grab the fence and cheat or should I not? It's self-preservation. So that could happen too. You could be fighting the most honorable guy in the world. You're fighting Demetrius Johnson. Who else would we think of when we think of honor? Like, who do we... Damian Maia. You're fighting Damian Maia. Damian Maia, actually, he wouldn't grab the fence and be like, cool, let's go to the ground. But, Damian Maia is getting beat up and
Wonder Boy.
The only thing, Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy would be praying all day and all night, but if it's the difference of life and death and he's got to grab your glove, Yoel Romero is the soldier of God. That dude grabbed that guy's glove pretty hardcore. Like, they all might do it in certain circumstances. So you must be prepared for that reality. And if we are the supporters and the fans of them, we must have our fighters prepared, and we must accept that. Last thing I'm going to say on this, and then we'll wrap up today. And I know this might take a little bit, but this came up in a conversation as well. I like to have conversations with people in the fight world. I do it every day. Not every day, but I go many days in a row where I'll do it 20 minutes at a time, 5 and 6 times a day, where I'll interact. Sometimes I'm learning things, and sometimes I'm seeing what people think. And somebody was, and they could have been trolling. I mean, not a lot of people hate George St. Pierre, but somebody was talking about how George St. Pierre greased so much that they had to change the rules for him. Would you say, created rules saying that there was something about how the amount of grease that could be on your body?
Really? I had no idea about that.
I don't know that is even true, but let me let you in on a secret here. Let's just say that that a rule had to be made that where you have to sample for grease or whatever. If a rule had to be formed, and I'm not saying it is in this, but in any other case in the future, if a rule has to be formed, it's because it didn't exist. And if it didn't exist, whatever you were doing was not cheating. You owe it to yourself in a situation of life or death or career or future or protecting your body and your brain cells. You owe it to yourself to do everything within the realm of what you can do within the rules as you see them. That is what you owe yourself. As a combat sportsman, as a martial artist, as a prize fighter, you owe it to yourself. Every shot you take in the head may have repercussions for you and your family in the future. It's something you should know when you start it, something you should know when you train and when you lovingly or in whatever way you dedicate your life to this sport. You should know that, but you owe it to yourself to do everything humanly possible to protect yourself from danger, and your opponent owes himself the same thing. If for some reason a rule had to be formed saying, well, now we check and do whatever, that means the rule didn't exist, which means you got to find the edge of it. You take it to the edge. That's what you do. That's what you do to protect yourself. But I'll let you in on a secret. So my first fight, I believe, was 2007. No, it was 2008 because it was 10 years ago this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 2007 or something like that. So 10 years ago. So I was really training full time to learn and understand the sport and live within the world of it and get ready to fight so that I would be able to do this with my life, 12 years ago. And this was whatever, hey, we're going to check you for the texture and the viscosity of your skin and stuff. I'll tell you, it was normal. I'm not saying I don't know any inside story about what George or Faraz or any of their team ever did. But I'll tell you this. I knew tons of fighters who took an oil bath the night before.
Yes.
It was done.
So common.
It was so normal. Common. It was discussed. I got to cut weight. I got to do my oil bath. We're going to it was normal. This is what we do. We're fighting BJ Penn. And when I say this, so the late great Sean Tompkins was an early mentor for me, and I trained with him a bit, and I analyzed Mark and Sam and those guys, and he talked about when he fought David Loiseau, and I'm not talking out of turn here because this is one example, but I could give you 50 to contextualize it, or at least 15. When he went to fight David Loiseau, he was like, yeah, and at night we'd sit in an oil bath because why the fuck wouldn't you, right? There's no rule against what you do the night before a fight.
Seep into your skin, sweat it out.
Yeah. And they believed it helped with the weight cutting. And then the next day, if your skin was even slightly slippery, or if we could do something to somehow affect our own flesh, this is my flesh. This is my flesh, and it's fucking 18 hours before the fight. You can't tell me what the fuck I can do in my bathtub on 19 hours before fighting. So it was completely accepted. Totally accepted. I can't stress that anymore. That not only accepted, openly discussed.
Yeah, it was part of the game.
It was completely a part of the game. Now, eventually, if a rule changes where there's going to be something about checking and people be like, he's greased, oh God, he's greased. It's like, too bad. He's also cut a bunch of weight. He's also 20 pounds heavier than he was because he found ways to treat his own body that belongs to him clearly in ways that prepared him to fight the way that he wanted in the way that he wanted to perform. Cutting weight was something you did before the weigh-ins, and after the weigh-ins, you made weight. It was up to you. You gained 20 pounds, you gained 20 pounds. You happen to fucking bathe in oil on Thursday night before a Friday night before a Saturday fight. That's your fucking body. It's your oil. It's your bath. Do what the fuck you want, right?
I was going to say even fighters loading up on caffeine.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. Caffeine, Sudafed back then. Now, nobody would recommend those things now because you actually want to be calm somewhat, but oh man, I'll tell you, and I won't reveal the person, but I fought on a fight, and the guy was taking painkillers, and he drank probably almost a Mickey of vodka in the back. Now, this was in another city, and it wasn't right, and it was scary and dangerous, but this is what they were doing back then. So what happened at Valley Tudo? It's like there were all kinds of shit that they did or didn't do. Things before they had explained how to wrap your hands. You fucking wrapped you had to. My first hand wrap was by a man named Alain Halmajan, Crew Alain. He is actually one of the cut men on the UFC and any of the Canadian fights. That guy fucking had the hardest wrap going. And my buddy Ian, who was fighting his third fight when I fought, he's like, yeah, you want Crew Alain to wrap your hands. Hardest fucking wrap going. But it was, I don't know what he did. I think it was legal even by today's standard. He just was like an old school high-level Muay Thai guy. Shout out to Crew Alain. But it passed. The commission would sit there and watch as he did it, so it must have been fine. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe by today's standards, it would be like, no, today you're no longer allowed to, whatever it is. Rules change over time. So they change to become more structured. I don't know how they check your skin now. I don't know if people still oil bath, but you can't tell me what the fuck to do 19 hours before a fight in my own hotel room. I'm sorry, you can't. But maybe they check in such a way that there are now tests, so they tighten up on certain things. That happens. But they also loosen on others. That's why everyone gets a free eye poke. Everyone gets a free groin shot. Everyone gets a free fucking everything. You know, these things change as the world changes, as the rules at our job change. Once upon a time, you couldn't go on Facebook at work. Try that at almost any job now, right? The rules change. Contracts. Back when I was first working in TV, you signed that contract as a contract. Now, if you have enough, if Brendan Schaub signed a contract with Fox back in the day when they had Fighter and the Kid, right. And he and I touched on this. I had no particulars, but we touched on this when I was on his podcast, maybe whenever the last time was, maybe 18 months ago or something. And I was like, he was talking about having left them, and I don't know if it was them specifically or we're talking in general, but if somebody signed a contract that was, and many contracts back then were unfairly stacked, stacked to whoever you worked for. And to this day, a lot of fighters' contracts are unfairly stacked to the organization. If that unfairly stacked contract is unreasonable to most people, and you have 1 million Twitter followers, you just fucking let them in on it. And that shit will fall quickly. Because that's the world we live in. Used to be ironclad, you signed it. Today it's like, we'll bring down your fucking company, Nike, if you fuck with my, whoever Nike's biggest guy is. Why do you think Conor McGregor, those deals get done? Because everybody involved has a lot of leverage and they come to a fair conclusion. You can't screw Conor McGregor when he has the influence he has. It's going to be very hard to screw Khabib Nurmagomedov now. He had 4 million Instagram followers after he beat Conor McGregor. Leverage changes these things. So things as cut and dried as contracts, as technology. I mean, in theory, Airbnb is illegal in many places. It's not illegal. People do it every day. Grabbing the shorts, you get a free eye poke. This is the world we live in. And what's my point? Ultimately, what is the ultimate thesis through examining rules in martial arts and in combat sports is these things are fluid. They've always been fluid and they will always be fluid. If you are, living in a world where you think the world doesn't change, you can look at things like this and see, oh yeah, it does change. Fuck. Today is October 16th. Now, you're watching this anytime, and I appreciate it, or listening to this. If you're listening to this on October 30th or December 1st because you had some interest in it, that's cool to me. But let me tell you, October 16th, tomorrow, marijuana is legal in Ontario.
Canada.
In Canada. The whole fucking country. Marijuana is legal. Now, 10 years ago, if you told me that, I would have never believed it. And neither would anybody. We had a conservative government. There's all kinds of shit. It just wouldn't have been happening. Now it's legal. Tomorrow it's legal. That's just the truth. And these things all change. Everything changes. I mean, shit, when I was 15, who could and couldn't get in the army, who couldn't get married, all these things, they all change. And rules change and rules of fighting change. The lesson here isn't get mad because Conor grabbed this guy's trunks. Our guy won. Herb did the right thing and our guy won. The lesson here is really understand what you're looking at. Really understand. You may have signed a contract that you think is ironclad, but if you really examine it, maybe it isn't. You might feel trapped in some structure that's there, and if you look at it, maybe you're not. You might, I just was in an Uber the other day and the guy said, I'm a YouTuber and I have 12,000 subscribers. I said, wow, that's awesome. He's a YouTube gamer. And he said, man, I'm thinking about going to college for 3 years and studying film and editing and production and stuff. Should I do it? I'm like, no fucking way, man. No fucking way. 5 years ago, I'd have been like, definitely do that. Definitely. That'll give you all kinds of insights and values. But now, those 3 years, in 3 months, you could learn that on YouTube. Some 13-year-old girl will teach you how to edit that on YouTube in 6 weeks or 6 days maybe. And then you'll go and do it. You'll start your thing. You'll be being taught. And not all teachers are this. There's wonderful teachers in the world who've dedicated their lives to teaching. But a lot of these people are people who are, 8 years behind when they started teaching 5 years ago, who are not living in the world you're in. The world has changed. You know, when I was a kid, you were supposed to get a degree. You shouldn't get a degree now. What are you going to do with a fucking university degree as university structure starts to collapse and change? And I'm not knocking it. There's a million ways to do things. But 6 years from now, a lot of the things people study, 6 months from now, a lot of the things you study have changed. The world fucking changes. Rules change. Structures change. You know, eye pokes and groin kicks and you know, kicking the head of a downed opponent, that could happen. Knees to the head of a downed opponent could happen. Only a year ago, if you had one hand on the ground, you were down. Now, if you're playing that game, you can still get kicked or kneed in the head. Mm-hmm. That changed. You better be aware of it. You better remember it. You better know, and you got to know what's up. But not only what it says in the rules, but what it is in reality. And like I said, I know I harped on this, but don't complain about shit. I swear to you, you're not accomplishing anything. You feel like you are, but you're not. It's a trick. It's a cognitive trick where instead of going out and either accepting it and working within its reality or taking action to change it, you're cognitively tricking yourself into thinking you're doing something you're not. But we will revisit this more because there is a lot more to this. The confines and the structures in which you express martial arts, martial arts itself is affected by the rules, by the structures, by what you say is right or wrong, by what we say we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. All of that affects martial arts, and it affects our lives. Affects our lives every single day. And we'll examine this deeper. I'll find better and deeper perspectives to look at it in better examples, or we'll use it in real applicable situations. But that's it. If you've been listening through the entire podcast or watching on YouTube, thank you so much. And if you've just listened to this section, Water, please give me some feedback on Instagram or Twitter at Robin Black MMA, and let me know if you're mad or you disagree. That's okay, but try to give it some thought. I'm not trying to, you know, not trying to make somebody wrong, or I'm not trying to force some change. I'm seeing the world as I think it is. I could be wrong. But I'm trying to see it as it is, and so we can act as it is and what is, you know, because that matters. If you want to Enjoy the Hostilities t-shirt or any other, it's at shoprobinblack.com. And what's our website?
RobinBlackMMA.com.
RobinBlackMMA.com. Should I write a blog for that in the next week? Do we have a space for blogs?
Yeah,
I'm going to write a blog.
I'll post it up for you.
Yeah, I'm going to write a blog, and then we'll share it on Twitter and Instagram so people can check out the website. Thank you so much. Until the next time, enjoy the hostilities, my friends.